Hello everyone, this is JD, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense, and welcome to this week's Talking News. We've been having some really exciting discussions recently about the kinds of events and activities that we could put on for you over the coming months and into the new year. Nothing's set in stone yet, but there are lots of fun ideas being thrown around. Some of the more traditional suggestions are seasonal fairs, a Christmas one of course, but also an Easter fair and something for the summer. These are great ways of bringing us all together and creating and enjoying a lovely community feel. Then we've had a few more extra ideas as well. I've heard that we've done a murder mystery evening before, and this sounds like brilliant fun and something a little bit more adventurous like a night run or night walk. I imagine the atmosphere of exploring something like that together could be a lot of fun and a really special experience. At this stage, they're just ideas, and that's where you come in. I'd love to hear what you think of these suggestions, but also any ideas you have yourselves. If there's something that you'd like to have us do, now's the time to let us know. So keep us posted, and look forward to meeting with you all again soon.
Here is this week's charity news for the 19th of September. Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15 and 2 p.m. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
There will be no yoga on Tuesday at Millbrook House, although the group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment. Our quarterly catch-up and feedback will be at 11 a.m. during the coffee and chat. If you are unable to make it, please send me any comments or feedback.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House, and we have a waiting list for this group, but again, if you are interested, please call the office to put your name down.
Our next stride is on Friday the 26th of September, around the Chale area. The walk is around 6 miles with lunch at the White Mouse pub. If you would like to join, please call the office and speak to Susan.
Our younger active group, Social Eyes, are meeting on Friday, October the 3rd at Ryde Super Bowl for a game of bowling. We will meet at 5:30 for a 6 p.m. start. This group will be held if we have enough interest, and therefore please call the office by Friday the 26th of September to put your name down. If we do not have enough members wishing to attend, then sadly we will have to cancel this activity.
We would like to thank everyone who is taking part in our sponsored cycle ride, RID the White, for the whole of September. Members, staff and volunteers are having a go either on our tandems, static bikes, floor pedal bikes or their own bikes to clock up as many miles as possible whilst raising funds for the charity. Also, if family members would like to take part, perhaps cycle instead of driving to work one day and ask colleagues to sponsor them. Please let Susan know in the office. There are sponsor forms ready at Millbrook House. If you are unable to participate but would like to sponsor the members, volunteers or staff members, please call the office. Let's make it a great success and raise a lot of funds for our amazing charity.
Our bookstall at Freshwater Tesco is a permanent stand and is raising funds for the charity. And once again, we would like to thank them for hosting our bookshelf. Children's books and paperbacks are proving very popular, so if you have any to donate, please drop off at Millbrook or top the shelf up next time you are in Tesco's in Freshwater.
This is Brian reading an article from On the White. Proposal for Sandown Town Council to protect former boating lake as asset of community value. An Isle of Wight Town Council could bid to make a much-loved boating lake an asset of community value, ACV, in the light of critically low summer water levels. Councillor Ian Boyd has proposed a motion that Sandown Town Council, STC, submits an official nomination of asset of community value encompassing the privately owned Sandown Boating Lake and its margins. In a separate motion, he has called for STC to nominate to the Island Nature Forum a proposal for the current boundaries of Site of Importance for Nature Conservation, SINC, 262A Sandown levels, to be extended to include entirety of Sandown Boating Lake, including its margins. His submissions, which will be discussed and voted on at next Monday's meeting, following last month's community volunteer effort to save wildlife at the lake after protracted dry weather caused a sharp decline in water levels. Thousands of litres of water are poured into the lake from tankers supplied by John Smith of Westridge Limited, Robin Hill and Richard Carter Ready Mix Concrete. When land or buildings are listed by councils as assets of community value, their owners must give the community an opportunity to acquire them should they choose to sell. The right for local groups to make an ACV nomination was introduced by the Localism Act 2011. SINCs are known nationally as local wildlife sites and raise awareness of areas' wildlife significance, particularly in relation to planning and land management decision-making. An STC paper prepared prior to next week's meeting says, completed in 1930, the lake has been a prominent amenity and much-loved local destination for almost a century, woven into the cultural and social life of the town. In recent years, episodes of critically low summer water levels, notably 2020 and 2025, have caused widespread alarm and concern across not only the local community, but the entire Isle of Wight. Sandown Boating Lake is not just a physical feature of the town, it is a living symbol of collective pride, care and connection. Its history, environmental significance, and the exceptional levels of engagement it inspires locally and further afield make it a clear and deserving candidate for designation as an ACV. Councillor Boyd said, the community of Sandown, led by an exceptional group of tireless volunteers to whom we owe a great debt of thanks, has made it absolutely clear how important the lake is to the people, to the place, and to the natural world so many treasure. Making plans for the future to protect the tremendous work already done and support the sustainable environmental stewardship of the lake's special ecology is something that I believe the Town Council will enthusiastically commit to and pursue. The ACV and SINC nominations now proposed are a very useful start, but there's more to come, especially given the lake's high priority status within the newly published Isle of Wight Local Nature Recovery Strategy. Sandown Town Council will meet at the Broadway Centre at 7 p.m. on Monday, the 22nd of September 2025.
This is Chris reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight GP practices to extend online appointments from October. From Wednesday, the 1st of October, GP practices across the Isle of Wight will extend their online consultation hours, offering patients easier access to their doctors throughout the day. Island residents will be able to use online consultations between 8 a.m. and 6:30 p.m, matching normal opening hours. The system can be used to describe symptoms, seek medical advice, request prescriptions, or manage ongoing conditions. While practices are open, patients will still have the choice to visit their surgery in person, call the practice directly, go online via their practice website or the NHS app. And for urgent help when practices are closed, Islanders are reminded to use 111 NHS UK or call 111. The change is part of a wider NHS initiative to expand access to care closer to home. On the Isle of Wight, this means more appointments are now available, not only with GPs, but also with a growing team of healthcare professionals, including physiotherapists, paramedics, and social prescribers. James Roach, Director of Primary Care and Local Care at NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight, said, "Our GPs are working harder than ever before and are seeing record numbers of patients each week. By extending the online consultation hours, it will also allow each practice to prioritise those patients needing urgent care." Patients now have options regarding how they contact their GP. Some may prefer to call them, and others may prefer to complete an online consultation. And our GPs are working differently to meet this demand. From October 2025, every practice will also publish a patient charter on its website, setting out what patients can expect from their GP team and what practices expect in return. Island patients are being asked to play their part in supporting local services. Keely Ellis, Deputy Director of Primary Care, said, "As well as extending the online consultation hours, we are also asking patients to help support their local GP practice. We are asking patients to cancel bookings if they no longer need them, be prepared ahead of any appointment, and ensure that you order your prescriptions in plenty of time." 7 simple steps have been outlined to help GP teams. Number 1, be prepared. Write down symptoms and concerns before an appointment. Number 2, be on time. Avoid delays that affect other patients. Number 3, cancel if needed. Free up slots if you can't attend. Number 4, use the NHS app. Book, cancel, order prescriptions and see test results online. Number 5, turn on notifications. Ensure your practice can contact you easily. Number 6, order medicines on time. Only request what you need. Number 7, join your patient participation group, give feedback and help improve services. The changes come under the It Takes a Team campaign, launched earlier this year to showcase the range of professionals now working within the GP practices across the island.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, "First stretches of King Charles III England Coast Path open on Isle of Wight." 2 new sections of the King Charles III England Coast Path have officially opened on the Isle of Wight this week, enhancing the walking experience around the island's coastline. The works form part of a national programme to create a continuous coastal path around the whole of England. Once completed, the route will be the longest managed coastal walking trail in the world, at around 2,700 miles, although there is an argument over a key section of the path in East Cowes. A 12-mile stretch from Chiltern Chine to Colwell Chine and a 2.8-mile section from Gurnard Lock to the West Cowes Chain Ferry are now open to the public. Legal provision has been made for both stretches to roll back in response to coastal erosion. This ensures people's rights of access are protected for the future and secures the investment being made now. The Chiltern Chine to Colwell Chine section offers dramatic clifftop views, access to popular beaches including Compton Bay, and passes landmarks such as Afton Down, Freshwater Bay, Tennyson Down, the Needles and Totland Bay. The shorter Gurnard Lock to West Cowes section provides a more relaxed seaside experience. Features include the newly installed steps and boardwalk through Linda's Wood to the beach, Gurnard Beach with its distinctive green huts, and Cowes Esplanade with its views across the Solent. Richard Murphy, who owns Linda's Wood and carries out improvements in memory of his late wife, said he hoped the woodland would remain a lasting tribute. Councillor Paul Fuller, who represents Cowes West and Gurnard, has said, "This is a fantastic improvement for our community, and I am especially pleased to see the path made safer and more accessible for everyone. It's been especially moving to learn the personal story behind this project. A heartfelt thank you to Richard Murphy, whose dedication has truly gone above and beyond." Alison Potts, Deputy Area Director for Natural England, added, "These improved stretches of path take some of the best views on the Isle of Wight and much loved places that have been attracting visitors for many years. With the improvements to the path and the additional access rights, we hope it will continue to give people the chance to get out and enjoy nature, as well as continue to bring visitors to the island since tourism is so vital to the local economy."
This is Brian reading an article from On the Wight. Major maintenance work on Island Line leads to service closure in October. Island Line services will be suspended for 2 weeks in October as engineers carry out a major programme of maintenance work. The closure will run from Saturday the 18th of October to Sunday the 2nd of November, covering all days in that period. During the closure, a rail replacement bus service will operate between Ryde Pierhead and Shanklin. Passengers are advised to check journey times before travelling. The work is part of ongoing improvements designed to keep the line running safely and reliably for the future. A second phase of work is planned shortly after. From Monday the 3rd of November until Saturday the 15th of November, the line between Ryde Pierhead and Ryde St John's Road will be closed. During this time, a minibus service will run between Ryde Pierhead and Ryde Esplanade. Replacement buses will cover the section between Ryde Esplanade and Ryde St John's Road. Passengers using the Island Line are encouraged to plan ahead and allow extra time for their journeys during both closures.
This is Chris reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Up to 50 Wightlink jobs at risk amid efficiency drive. Ferry operator Wightlink has announced plans that could see up to 50 staff roles axed as part of a major review aimed at cutting costs and improving efficiency. The company, which runs cross-Solent services between the island and mainland, confirmed yesterday that around 160 employees have been informed that they are at risk under its new rostering and operational efficiency project. A statement issued by the company to Isle of Wight Radio said, "This project is needed to modernise and improve efficiency. So we have the right people in the right places at the right times. Like many businesses, rising costs and inflationary pressures are having an impact, with our cost growth being twice that of our revenue growth over the past year. To ensure we are able to continue investing in our people, our fleet, and our ports, we are currently going through a 30-day consultation with our operational staff, alongside our union, the RMT. The proposal may affect up to 50 roles, but there are over 30 new vacancies in the proposed structure. We hope to deliver the proposals through a voluntary process, and the suggested changes include no reduction in sailings on any route. Isle of Wight MP Joe Robertson said he supports the idea of improving efficiency, but raised concerns about the wider impact of the proposals. I support the principle of ensuring efficiencies in the delivery of ferry services, but it is not clear that Wightlink can make redundancies without impacting their increasingly reduced services. If savings are made, we can be confident they won't be passed on to the passengers. In any case, the main driver of high prices is the private equity ownership model, whereby large profits are paid out to foreign shareholders. Private equity should not be operating lifeline transport services in an unregulated market. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the UK, and the island should be no different. Wightlink must do the right thing by all their staff and their families.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, Red Funnel introduces new flexible return policy for NHS patients. Red Funnel has introduced a new fare guarantee to support Isle of Wight residents travelling to the NHS appointments on the mainland. The new flexible returns policy ensures that if a patient needs to change their return journey, whether due to delays or finishing earlier than expected, they can travel on the next available sailing without incurring any additional charges, even if it falls during a higher fare sailing. This applies upon proof of travel for an NHS appointment. The change was prompted by customer feedback, which provided insight into the experiences of those returning from hospital appointments. In response, Red Funnel has acted to provide greater reassurance and flexibility for patients, ensuring they can return home without additional stress following a potentially challenging day. The ferry operator is also reaffirming its commitment to support island residents attending NHS appointments on the mainland by highlighting the range of discounted travel options available. Passengers travelling to hospital appointments on foot can access special discounted fares of £12.80 return, also applicable to a companion, while those travelling with a car benefit from a 50% discount or a fare cap of £31 per leg, whichever is lower. Where a carer is required for a foot passenger to travel, the carer can also travel free. Neil Chapman, Director of Operations for Red Funnel, says, "We are committed to supporting islanders and ensuring that essential journeys for NHS care are as affordable and stress-free as possible. We are especially grateful one of our customers for sharing their experience with us and made us reflect on how we could do more. Their feedback directly inspired this change, and we hope it will now make the care as affordable and stress-free as possible. We are especially grateful for one of our customers sharing their experience with us, who made us reflect on how we could do more. Their feedback directly inspired this change, and we hope it will now make the return journey home easier, more predictable and worry-free." Red Funnel is also reminding patients of the onward hospital connections available to them, including patients travelling by bus from the Isle of Wight to Southampton General or Royal South Hants hospitals can purchase a Freedom or Rover ticket from Southern Vectis and use it for travel with Blue Star or Unilink on the mainland. In addition, Red Funnel offers additional assistance to island patients through a dedicated accessibility specialist. This role provides personalised guidance and support for passengers with physical or hidden disabilities, accessibility requirements, or those travelling for hospital or medical appointments. Operating as a concierge-style service, the accessibility specialist provides peace of mind, consistent communication, and a single point of contact to help customers navigate their journey with confidence. Customers seeking support can contact the accessibility specialist by calling 01983 681 263 between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday to Friday, or by emailing passenger support, that's all one word, at redfunnel.co.uk.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Rejection of 14-house development in Northwood appealed. A rejected 14-house development deemed visually intrusive by Isle of Wight planners has been appealed. Applicants Downer and Long are looking to overturn County Hall's refusal of their outline application for 14 homes on land at Comforts Farm off Northwood's Pallants Road. The proposal comprises 3 building types: 4 2-bed semi-detached houses, 8 3-bed detached houses, and 2 3-bed semi-detached houses. It also includes a vehicular access next to the current road entrance to Comforts Farm and a driveway within the site, which would be behind a row of trees facing Pallants Road. An appeal statement prepared by Phil Salmon Planning says the case sits at the heart of the issue of planning for housing need in sustainable locations. This issue has become all the more pertinent since April 2025, when the Planning Inspectorate responded to the draft island planning strategy and found the plan to be unsound as a consequence of a lack of housing delivery and requiring the authority to find more land for housing. This appeal scheme is shown to be acceptable with regards to meeting the need for housing, complying with sustainability credentials, public transport accessibility, design and layout requirements, biodiversity net gain, landscape amenity, and ecology. Housing requirements are growing, and the island needs sites such as this to be brought forward to meet emerging targets in excess of 1,000 new homes per year. The statement notes a commitment to signing a Section 106 legal agreement providing for affordable housing and Solent Special Protection Area mitigation. In addition, the appeal includes a submitted hedgerow assessment and drainage scheme. The council report justifying the plan's previous refusal cited concerns over safe pedestrian access, a lack of drainage and hedgerow information, highway safety, local and affordable housing needs, effects on the environment, and a serious adverse impact on the area's character.
This is Chris reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Floating bridge set for annual autumn refit. The Cowes floating bridge will be out of action later this month while it undergoes its regular autumn refit. From Monday, the 22nd of September until Friday, the 3rd of October, the chain ferry, which links Cowes and East Cowes across the Medina, will be temporarily withdrawn from service to allow for essential maintenance. During the scheduled works, engineers will carry out a number of key tasks, including the replacement of the drive chains, servicing of the guide wheels, changing of the hydraulic oil, and remedial work to the prows. These routine measures are aimed at ensuring the long-term safety and reliability of the vessel, which provides a vital link for commuters, residents, and visitors alike. While the floating bridge is in dock, a replacement launch service will operate across the river. This will be available for pedestrians and cyclists, helping to maintain access between the two towns during the maintenance period. The Isle of Wight Council has apologised for any inconvenience caused and is encouraging regular users of the service to plan ahead for their journeys. The floating bridge plays a key role in local transport on the island, carrying thousands of people across the Medina every week. Its annual refit is a statutory requirement designed to keep the vessel in safe working condition for the year ahead.
Hello everyone, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio with the headline Long-awaited Belgrave Road works set to begin in Ventnor. After months of frustration and road closures, work to finally reopen Belgrave Road in Ventnor is about to get underway. Island Roads and the Isle of Wight Council have confirmed that residents can expect to see activity on site from early October once final approvals are signed off. The first stage will see temporary scaffolding and safety necking installed to stop loose materials from tumbling down the hillside cliffside. This will pave the way for high-tension steel netting, similar to that used at nearby Gills Cliff Road, to secure the rock face. Smaller debris will then be removed by hand. Engineers will then tackle the remaining huge boulders using chemical demolition, a specialist process where holes are drilled into the rock before a powerful solution is poured in, expanding and cracking the stones apart. Officials say the method, already used successfully at Belgrave Road, is safer and avoids bringing in heavy machinery to the tight site. If all goes to plan, pedestrians could be walking the road again by early November, with full reopening to follow once resurfacing, parapet repairs and further works on the steps on Esplanade Road are complete. Local contractors Stoneham Construction, Corefix and MG Solutions, all part of the original rebuild team, will again be involved in the project. A council spokesperson said they understood the strong local feelings around the disruption and thanked residents for their patience, adding, "We're working hard to restore access as soon as possible, but this is a challenging site and timescales may change." The community of Ventnor has endured years of upheaval following the rockfall, but there is now hope the end is finally in sight.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read today by me, Morris.
And me, Madeline.
And we begin with more news items taken from the County Press and the Observer. I have a headline that reads, Mum's agony over inquest sent by post. A grieving mother has slammed the island's coroner after waiting more than 3 years for an inquest, only to be sent the report by paper. Sue Linnett feels her daughter Natasha Pink was failed in both life and death, and the delay and the way the hearing was handled had left the family broken beyond words. She told the County Press about the devastating impact of her daughter's death, being pushed aside, along with numerous others, as a paper exercise owing to the Coroner's Office's own shortcomings for not dealing with a massive backlog of inquests. In today's paper, the Isle of Wight MPs, a legal expert and the CP itself have their say about the number of inquests being held behind closed doors and without transparency.
Medics save seal pup after it turns up at cafe. A seal pup was rescued after being looked after by staff at a seaside cafe. The unexpected visitor to the Lazy Wave Cafe in Shanklin placed himself on the shop front. The British Divers Marine Life Rescue's marine mammal medics attended and found the pup to be approximately 4 weeks old and underweight at 13 kilograms. The pup, found to be dehydrated, was assessed at Carisbrooke Vets and transported across the Solent by ferry the next day, asleep for most of the journey to the RSPCA Rehabilitation Centre. He will spend the next couple of months regaining strength before he is released back into the sea on the west coast. The Lazy Wave Cafe said, "Well, we had a rather unusual customer pop by. Clearly he heard about our 99s and decided to flop in for one himself. Definitely our cutest and chunkiest customer yet. Big thanks and a huge shout out to the amazing team at British Divers Marine Life Rescue."
A community councillor has been elected into a new role in the Green Party. Vix Lothian will serve as the Internal Communications Coordinator until 2027, responsible for party membership, websites and campaigns. The new role builds on her 2 terms as the Policy Development Coordinator for the party. Vix, who serves on Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council and is a teacher, said, "I am delighted to be elected back onto the National Executive in an exciting new position. The Green Party has always been a welcoming place and offered me so many opportunities in the last decade, both at a national level and here on the Isle of Wight. I am determined to return everyone's confidence in me and work hard to support all our MPs, councillors and members to be equipped to make a real difference in our communities." The Green Party has elected a new leadership as Zach Polanski takes on the top role, supported by Rachel Millwood and Muthin Ali as deputy leaders. Vix will speak on education at a fringe event to the Green Party Autumn Conference in Bournemouth next month.
Hospice cuts may mean we'll see people die badly. For the first time, we're faced with having to see people potentially die badly, an end-of-life care expert warned County Hall last week. Mountbatten Isle of Wight senior consultant in palliative care, Dr. Paul Howard, told the Adult Social Care, Public Health and Housing Needs Committee he was really worried in light of proposed NHS cuts to the hospice service. NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight in June unveiled plans to withdraw £1.4 million a year in funding for the hospice, a disinvestment of around 40% by 2026-27. The Integrated Care Boards said its intention is to retain and enhance Mountbatten's excellent support to islanders, but recognises the challenging financial position the changes will have. Dr. Howard said the island's mortality rate was 50% higher than the mainland, and Mountbatten was involved with 3/4 of people who die on the Isle of Wight. Committee members agreed on a recommendation to support constructive dialogue between the hospice communities and the ICB. They said this was in the hope that it would lead to timely and stable support for a valued Isle of Wight asset and service. James Roach, Director of Primary Care at NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight, said, "This is clearly a very challenging situation. We agreed a series of negotiations and conversations around a range of issues. I recognise that perhaps the pace of financial change was too fast. I agree the additional funding to the end of the financial year. Colleagues from the hospice will agree that the dialogue is challenging, but it's constructive. We meet on a fortnightly basis. We meet in person once a month. We meet via Teams as well. We're in a very challenging landscape financially. As an organisation, we're in recovery support. We recognise that affects all public services." The ICB's update report said, "We have agreed to provide interim funding of £527,000 to enable appropriate transition to the proposed new contract from April the 1st, 2026. The new contract is based on equity and fairness. We do recognise the impact it has on Mountbatten Isle of Wight due to its current contract and historical strong levels of funding from the NHS.
A festival has raised more than £10,000 for charity in memory of a much-loved founder. Waverley Park's annual beer, poetry, music and more beer festival, held at the East Cowes campsite on September the 12th, 13th and 14th, raised £10,742 for the British Heart Foundation. The money was donated in tribute to Peter Adams, the partnership's original founder, who died of a heart attack 10 years ago. Julian Adams, owner of Waverley Park, said, "This festival has become the institution it is today because of the hard work and dedication of so many people. With the sad loss of my father Peter in mind, we wanted what might potentially be the last event in our stewardship to be a special tribute to the man who took on the park in 1999. The 13th edition of the festival saw more than 2,000 pints poured and featured performances from The Lords, Baggy Wrinkles and Texas, along with poetry from Happy John and a variety of other live acts." Julian also thanked the many people and organisations who helped make the event a success. He said this amazing and occasionally daft weekend would not have been possible without the tireless volunteers, staff and all those behind the scenes.
Popular tea rooms closed after fire. A cafe will be closed for some time after an electrical fire in the kitchen last Thursday. Crews were called to the Old Smithy tea rooms in Godshill at around 9 p.m. A spokesperson for the Old Smithy said, "Unfortunately, due to the severity of the damage caused to the kitchen in the fire, our coffee shop will be closed for some time. But we are working hard to find a way to bring you our fabulous cakes and coffee soon." The attraction confirmed its gardens, shops and Wishing Well cottage remain open. The spokesperson added, "We want to take a moment to say a huge heartfelt thank you to the fire service. We are truly grateful for their swift response, professionalism and care. We are grateful for everything they do for the community. No one was injured in the blaze, which saw a response from 4 appliances and an aerial ladder." The Old Smithy thanked customers for their understanding and said they were looking forward to welcoming visitors back to the cafe.
Controlling husband is spared jail. A gaslighter who manipulated and coerced his wife of 16 years, controlling her finances and guilt-tripping her for visiting her dying father, has been spared jail. Andy Drain of Whitecroft Park, Newport, appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Wednesday for sentencing. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of assault by beating, one concerning his wife and the other relating to another victim. He also admitted engaging in controlling, coercive behaviour towards his wife. Sarah Daniels, prosecuting, said police were called to Drain's home on November the 30th. At around 5:30, Mrs. Drain had returned home to find her husband shouting in the back garden. He told her he had been drinking a few beers and began calling his wife derogatory names, the court heard. She walked away, but he followed her before assaulting another person in the house. The court heard how Mrs. Drain closed the front door on him, but he proceeded to push her in the chest. Mrs. Daniels said police attended and details of Drain's coercive behaviour were exposed. A victim impact statement from Mrs. Drain heard how his actions over a number of years had affected her in many complex ways and made her feel very alone with no freedom. The statement said he guilt-tripped her for seeing her parents, and even when her dad was dying, he told her she should not be spending so much time with him. He controlled their finances, and she would often question why, even though she had a good salary, she never had any money. Court heard how he broke several mobile phones in fits of rage, and Mrs. Drain felt so frightened when he had been drinking, she used to pretend to be asleep and even hid from him. She said his behaviour has left her anxious, paranoid and continuously doubting herself. Defending Oliver Hirsch said there was no suggestion that it was a repeatedly violent relationship, and Drain had no relevant previous convictions. Recorder Barry McElduff said Drain displayed a catalogue of quite appalling behaviour across the course of his marriage. Mr. McElduff said Drain was a primary carer, and that was the only reason he was not being sent to jail. Drain was handed a 21-month suspended prison sentence and a 2-year restraining order. He must pay costs of £1,000 and carry out rehabilitation days and unpaid work.
Iconic locomotive restored and heading home. One of the Isle of Wight's most iconic diesel locomotives is heading home after 27 years. Built in 1962, the Class 03 shunter was transferred to the island in 1987 to haul engineering trains. Painted in Network Southeast livery of red, white and blue, it worked on the island for a decade before being sold in 1998. After being withdrawn in 2016, the locomotive was bought by Andy West, Dale West and Andy Ashton in 2017. They spent 8 years restoring it. Now the train is set to return to the Isle of Wight Steam Railways collection for an initial 10-year period. Mark Morgan Hughes, Chief Executive at the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, said, "The two Andys and Dale have undertaken a superb restoration, and their dedication is a testament to the allure of our railway heritage." Andy West said, "To return the train to the Isle of Wight in its iconic livery is something we discussed back in 2017. Our partnership with the Isle of Wight Steam Railway will see the train lives in the best possible place for its long-term future. The Class 03 shunter is heading home in October and will be in service at the Isle of Wight Loco Gala and Festive Ales Festival on November the 29th and 30th.
Bridge advice cost is crazy. More than £60,000 spent on consultants for advice on the floating bridge's future has been criticised as totally unnecessary and crazy. A Freedom of Information request by the Local Democracy Reporting Service revealed £60,257 was spent on commissioning multinational consulting group Sistra, exposing continued divisions over the matter at County Hall. Sistra was appointed through a competitive and transparent procurement process to explore all viable options, engaging with industry experts and ensuring value for public money regarding the future of the chain ferry, a council spokesperson said. In March last year, an alliance group cabinet decided to replace the troubled vessel and commission a River Medina crossing strategy with an updated business case, options appraisal, output specification and procurement strategy. The council has said this is to ensure any purchase is best value for taxpayers. Its public consultation, which put forward 3 options, including a new vessel, modifying the existing ferry and or the operational environment, or simply maintaining and operating it, finished on August the 22nd. Leader of the council, Phil Jordan, said he was disappointed with how long it has taken and equally dismayed at the costs being incurred. He said, "I would have hoped the decision taken to replace this vessel would have been enacted without the added complications of undertaking a new review of the crossing and service." East Cowes County Councillor Carl Love said this is a totally unnecessary cost, as it was clearly stated that the floating bridge was going to be replaced, not modified. "I don't see any progress being made in replacing it. We could have built a new vessel by now or been close to its introduction. The consultation is a pointless one, lacking in substance and constructive, useful questions. A step backwards. This is crazy, throwing our settlement funding away in this manner. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said the Council is required to follow a formal process set out in government guidance. This includes exploring all viable options, engaging with industry experts, and ensuring value for public money, and that process is ongoing. The Council appointed Sistra through a competitive and transparent procurement process to lead this work. As part of their bid, they included Beckett Rankin, a respected marine engineering consultancy, to provide the necessary specialist expertise.
World record set above Needles by daring kitesurfer. A new Guinness World Record was set over the Needles as a kitesurfer set a new best altitude above an Isle of Wight attraction. Jake Scrace took on his biggest challenge yet over the Needles, reaching 1,587 feet in a kitesurf tow above the landmark, beating the previous best of 908.7 feet. Pulled skyward by paramotor pilot Che Anich, Jack cut loose and glided back to the water in West Wight. Jack said, "It was the biggest challenge I've ever taken on. Up there, it was about trusting the team, the conditions, and just going for it. The sense of freedom was incredible, and I'm buzzing that we got the record on the first attempt. I'm already thinking about what the next stunt could be and where we can go with it." Supported by a 30-strong crew, including safety divers and film specialists, Jack's record was verified using state-of-the-art technology. The stunt was organised by property and construction consultancy firm Gleeds for its 150th anniversary. Jack is a British kitesurfer known for daring stunts. He's previously kitesurfed over Worthing Pier.
Daisy Ring Bus moves forward. Following the sudden withdrawal of the Daisy bus service on August the 20th, the Isle of Wight community rallied to raise over £12,000, keeping a temporary minibus taxi service running for patients travelling from the Redjet terminal to Southampton General Hospital. The newly formed Community Interest Company, the CIC, formed to save the service, has now taken a major step forward. At its first board meeting held this week, directors confirmed a decision to purchase a dedicated minibus for the service. Fundraising efforts will now focus on covering the cost of the vehicle and its ongoing running expenses. Red Funnel has generously pledged free ferry travel for volunteer drivers and free parking for the bus in Southampton, and will help publicise the timetable to ensure patients can plan their journeys with confidence. Negotiations are underway to also arrange for free parking in Cowes for volunteers. Fran Collins, CEO of Red Funnel, said, "When Operations Director Neil Chapman and I heard about the Daisy Ring Bus campaign, we discussed it with our brilliant customer service colleagues, and there was an immediate desire to help. This service means so much to the community, and we're proud to play a part in supporting something so vital for islanders during such challenging times. The CIC is now seeking volunteer drivers who can commit to 1 day a week. No special driving licence is required, and full support will be provided. If you are interested, please email savethedaisybus@gmail.com. CIC Chairman Michelle Newton added this is a huge moment for the campaign, and the initial response to the campaign has been amazing, and we've gone from crisis response to building a sustainable future, and we're doing it together. We can do this. Donations also can be made via iw.observer/daisy-bus.
Council leader is Lib Dem candidate for mayor. The Liberal Democrat candidate has been announced for the inaugural Hampshire and Isle of Wight mayoral election. The leader of Winchester City Council, Councillor Martin Todd, will be standing in the election next May. He said, "This new role represents a historic shift in power, finally bringing decision-making on housing, transport, jobs and climate action closer to the people. We need a mayor who doesn't just talk about change, but has a track record of delivering it. As a leader of Winchester City Council, I've worked with colleagues to make Winchester the #1 district council in the country for tackling climate change, and we've been rated Britain's best city for jobs. That shows what's possible if you balance leadership on the environment with a commitment to economic growth, combining vision, ambition and pragmatism." Councillor Todd has been a campaigner for the Lib Dems for 40 years. He has stood as a parliamentary candidate. Councillor Todd has said his priorities will include more support for the NHS, more affordable homes, more investment in trains, buses and ferries, more new jobs and investment, and more action to protect the environment. As previously reported, the Conservative candidate has already been announced as Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones.
Village Primary School impresses inspectors. A Village Church of England primary school has kept up good and outstanding standards since an inspection more than 5 years ago. Pupils enjoy attending, achieve well and can take up the many available enrichment opportunities at Bembridge CE Primary School, Ofsted inspectors concluded after visiting on July the 1st and 2nd. In December 2019, the Government Inspectorate rated the primary good for quality of education, personal development, leadership and management and early years provision, as well as outstanding for behaviour and attitudes. These standards have been maintained according to Ofsted's latest report, which acting lead teacher Teresa Wall said she was absolutely delighted to share. It says the school's values of love, courage and respect are evident throughout the school, where pupils strive to demonstrate them. The school is ambitious for pupils, including those with special educational needs and/or disabilities. Pupils have the chance to take up the many available enrichment opportunities, and these include sports clubs such as football, tag rugby and fencing. There are also opportunities to develop pupils' talents in art and drama. On what Bembridge Primary could do to improve, the report said on occasion the precise subject-specific vocabulary pupils need to know is not secured, limiting achievement. Mrs. Wall told the press the outcome confirms that Bembridge Primary School continues to be judged as a good school overall. The report highlights the school's ambition for all children and recognises our ongoing commitment to improvement and development, with children firmly at the heart of everything we do. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the staff at Bembridge Primary whose dedication, teamwork and hard work played a vital role in this success. I would also like to thank our wider Bembridge community for your continued support. It truly makes a difference.
Distress for customers of pharmacies. Short notice closures, low stock levels, limited pharmacist availability and difficulties obtaining essential medications at J Hoots pharmacies have sparked growing concern. Healthwatch Isle of Wight said issues with the pharmacies are causing distress and inconvenience, especially for those with ongoing health conditions. Although the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board, the ICB, the body responsible for planning health services, confirmed it has received no official notice of closure, it said it is aware that branches are reportedly not opening to their contracted hours. Affected branches include Ryde, Cowes, East Cowes and Sandown. In May, the county press also reported that J Hoots in Albert Street, Ventnor, had not been operating during its advertised opening hours. Joanna Smith from Health Watch Isle of Wight said it is aware that similar challenges are being reported nationally and it has contacted the ICB. We have requested an urgent update from them on what steps are being taken locally to ensure continuity of access to essential medication and pharmacy services, she said. Access to medication is a fundamental part of healthcare, and we will continue to monitor the situation closely. We urge anyone affected to get in touch with us so we can ensure their experiences are heard and shared with decision makers. Director of Primary Care and Local Care, James Roach, said, "We are aware that patients on the Isle of Wight are experiencing difficulties in accessing J Hoots pharmacies and not being able to collect the medicines they need. We would encourage patients to use alternatives when those pharmacies are closed, and we are supporting GP practices in helping patients to do so. We remain in regular contact with J Hoots, and while we are very aware that the pharmacies are reportedly not opening to their contracted hours, no official notice has been given as to their closure. There are robust commissioning plans in place for the Isle of Wight, and while we are keen to work together through any issues, we are prepared to take action where needed, as we have done previously if contracted requirements are not met." The county press contacted J Hoots for comment, but had not received a response at the time of going to press.
A man charged with attempted murder has had his case sent to the Crown Court. James Hyde of Jubilee Place in Ryde appeared before Portsmouth magistrates on Monday morning. He is charged with attempted murder, aggravated burglary and possession of an offensive weapon. Police were called at 5:54 a.m. on Saturday, September the 6th, to a report of an altercation involving two men in Victoria Avenue, Shanklin. Both men sustained injuries and were arrested before they were taken to hospital for treatment. The second man, aged 40, was released with no further action being taken against him. Mr. Hyde, 36, saw his case adjourned for a plea and trial preparation hearing. He is due to appear at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on October the 18th.
Julie's camper van is a TV star. A retirement and birthday gift of a camper van from a man to his wife caught the attention of popular TV programme Bangers and Cash. Malcolm Cox, 71, promised his wife Julie he would one day buy her dream camper van. True to his word, he purchased a rare 1968 Morris Minor camper for £6,600 at auction, combining their fond memories of learning to drive in a Morris 1000 Traveller with their camper van dream. The van, which they named Jill, from the number plate JIL 6116, was rescued from a barn owned by a man from Hull. Julie, who retired after 31 years at the switchboard at St Mary's Hospital in Newport, was thrilled with the gift. She said, "It was very exciting. I always dreamed of having a camper van, so to have one combined with a Morris 1000 was perfect. I'm absolutely over the moon." The couple faced some tense moments, though, during the auction, with someone else bidding too. However, their determination paid off. Julie said, "We had someone bidding against us, but then, thankfully, he dropped out. It was wonderful to get it." The camper van has since undergone several modifications and improvements, more than doubling Malcolm's successful bid outlay. It now requires a respray and some welding work to complete the project. The camper's unique story and personal journey piqued the interest of Bangers and Cash, a show dedicated to auctioning and restoring classic vehicles. The show sent a film crew to the island to follow the couple around popular attractions in the camper, such as Carisbrooke Castle and Blackgang Chine. The day trip concluded at the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, where a mini rally was held in the events field with members of the Isle of Wight Morris Minor Owners Club. Julie said she felt proud showing the camper off at the recent Isle of Wight Classic Motor Show in Newport and Ryde. She said, "We had queues of people wanting to come and have a look inside her. Children especially loved her." The addition of Bangers and Cash, featuring Malcolm, Julie and Jill, is set to be screened on the You and Yesterday channel towards the end of this year.
A serial offender has narrowly avoided another jail term after admitting multiple shop thefts, breaching the sex offenders register and assaulting a police officer. Ian Willett, 27, of Pyle Street in Newport, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court last Friday for sentencing. He had previously pleaded guilty to 7 counts of theft from shops, assaulting an emergency worker and failing to comply with the notification requirements of the Sex Offenders Register. Prosecutor Serena Edwards said Willett stole goods worth more than £1,600 from stores in Newport, including Sainsbury's, Morrison's and TK Maxx between April and May this year. All the thefts were captured on CCTV, but none of the stolen property was recovered. Miss Edwards said that in a separate incident on May the 19th, police were called to reports of 4 men fighting outside the probation service office on C Street in Newport. During his arrest, Willett punched a police officer in the face, magistrates were told. The court also heard Willett failed to register a change of address by July the 27th deadline, in breach of the notification rules under the Sexual Offences Act of 2003. Willett is a registered sex offender after he was jailed for 40 months for sexual assault, assault by beating and kidnap following an incident near Church Lytton in August 2020. Oscar Vincent, defending, said Willett's relationship had broken down, leaving him without a home or income. Regarding the assault, Mr. Vincent said Willett acted out of concern for a friend who was being arrested alongside him and claimed it was more of a push than a punch. Magistrates told Willett, "What a catalogue of offending this has been." "Sorry," Willett replied. The bench responded, "It's going to take more than apologies to get out of this. You've got one crack at this. If you don't toe the line, you know what'll happen. It's the last chance you're ever going to have." "Thank you. This chance is all I need," Willett told the court. Magistrates imposed a 16-week prison sentence, suspended for 12 months, and 25 rehabilitation days. He must compensate for the thefts and £100 to the officer he assaulted.
Stalker told to avoid Union Inn. A man has been ordered to stay away from a pub after he admitted stalking a woman. Josh Uni of Harding Road Ryde went before Portsmouth magistrates on August the 28th. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of stalking without fear, alarm or distress. The offending, which he knew or ought to have known, amounted to harassment, relates to a period between January the 19th and February the 13th and concerns 1 woman. Police had previously put out an appeal to find Uni in April as part of their investigations. A spokesperson for the force said at the time, "We would like to remind people that anyone found to be harbouring Josh to deliberately obstruct our attempts to locate him may be committing an offence and be liable for arrest themselves." They later located and arrested him, and he was subsequently charged. Uni, 34, has now seen his case adjourned until November the 20th for a pre-sentence report. Magistrates bailed him with conditions including not to enter the Union pub in Cowes.
A pensioner stunned police officers when he produced a cannabis joint in front of them. Andrew Dilk, 70, of South Bank Road in East Cowes, appeared before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, where he admitted possessing a Class B drug. Prosecutor Serena Edwards told the court that police had been called to Dilk's address following a concern for welfare report. When officers arrived, Dilk asked if he could smoke before producing a cannabis joint, prompting police to search the property, the court heard. A tin containing further amounts of cannabis was discovered. Miss Edwards told the court Dilk had previous convictions for cannabis possession and a drug driving offence. Defending, Oscar Vincent said his client, who is an amputee, suffers from constant pain and uses cannabis as a means of relief. Dilk was fined £80 and must pay £85 costs and a £32 surcharge.
Big milestone as Islander production returns home. Aircraft business Britten-Norman has hit a major milestone in bringing full production of the iconic Islander aircraft to its Isle of Wight facility. The company has completed over half of the first UK-built Islander plane, previously manufactured overseas before final assembly. The change in manufacturing process represents a milestone in Britten-Norman bringing full aircraft production back to the island. The company is scaling up operations to deliver new build aircraft, with wing assembly of the plane is expected to finish later this year, ahead of first delivery in spring 2026. Graham Stone, Commercial Director of Britten-Norman, said this milestone marks the excellent progress by our team in relocating the Islanders' production to Bembridge. By bringing the full build to the UK, we are strengthening our capability and ensuring we can deliver new aircraft efficiently for operators worldwide. Since announcing reshoring plans in 2023, the company has grown its workforce by over 40% and secured new investment from Northern Ireland-based company Beachlands Enterprises in 2024. The business said demand for the Islander remains strong, with confirmed orders already secured. It has invested in new technology for its production line, including state-of-the-art CNC equipment, ready to meet increased demand from operators by making its production capability stronger in the UK. Britten-Norman recently celebrated the 60th anniversary of the aircraft. First flown on June the 13th, 1965, the Islander has flown across the globe, from South America to remote Scottish islands. The aircraft has operated passenger routes and disaster relief, giving pilots consistent performance across climates and terrains and in multiple disciplines. William Hynett, Chief Executive at Britten-Norman, said, "This anniversary is a proud moment, but our eyes are firmly on the future. We are investing in our people and in the continued evolution of the Islander to meet the needs of today's operators and the challenges of tomorrow's aviation."
The head teacher of Cowes Enterprise College has set a goal to reset the year following its controversial policies, which have been panned by parents and students. Principal Rachel Kitely, in a letter to parents and carers, said some aspects of the implementation of the policies had not worked as smoothly as intended, and the school is making sensible adjustments, including a longer lunchtime, more toilets accessible at peak times, additional exit doors, and a pilot outdoor locker scheme. She also provided parents and carers with a document explaining each policy. but she maintains the rules were made in the best interests of all students, including those with special educational needs and disabilities. She said, "Our goal now is to reset the year together. A constructive relationship between home and school is vital for every child's success, and we are committed to working in partnership with you and our wider school community. We ask for your support as we refine these policies so all students can thrive and so that we can work in collaboration with you to ensure our academy is a place we can all continue to be proud to be a part of." CEC has come under fire for its new policies, described as ridiculous and draconian by parents and students. One Year 8 pupils said students are required to line up silently on painted marks at the gate each morning and risk detention if they do not arrive at lessons on time. Students are also banned from playing football, running around, or gathering in groups larger than 6, she claimed. A petition was launched by a student accusing the school of creating an atmosphere of intimidation. School toilets remain locked during lesson time by shutters. Pupils are still permitted to use them if they have a toilet pass, and if not, they have to be escorted by a member of staff. The controversial rules have prompted responses from the National Education Union and Richard Quigley, MP for Isle of Wight West. He said he was not convinced that the guidelines supporting learning.
Plans for shake-up are rejected by full council. A proposal setting out a root and branch overhaul of local government across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight has been rejected by County Hall. On Wednesday, full council voted against a landmark vision for local government reorganisation put forward by 12 councils across the region. Close enough to be local, big enough to stay strong. The chamber was sharply divided, with 15 in favour and 19 against the proposal, part of the government's move to reshape local authorities. A model of 5 unitary authorities was put forward. 4 new mainland councils in place of 14 existing ones, and the Isle of Wight keeping its current position. It was drawn up in light of far-reaching devolution and LGR plans unveiled by Whitehall in December last year. The reforms include 2 separate but related policy packages: shifting powers and funding from Whitehall to England's regions by creating strategic authorities with elected mayors and ending the 2-tier system of county and district councils with new unitary authorities covering populations of at least 500,000. In February, then Minister of State for Local Government and English Devolution, Jim McMahon, invited LGR proposals from Hampshire and Solent councils. The proposal rejected at the full council meeting aimed to simplify local structures, improve coordination of services and deliver estimated annual savings of at least £63.9 million. Section 5 of the document gives its case for the island keeping its unitary authority. With a track record of financial sustainability and effective service delivery, the Isle of Wight Council has operated successfully as a unitary council since 1995. Being an independent authority has enabled tailored responses to challenges, demographic pressures and environmental priorities while protecting the island's local identity. Maintaining the Isle of Wight as an independent or unitary authority will ensure it continues to respond to local needs while standing alongside the mainland unitary councils through an enhanced partnership.
And now we're moving on to Wight memories and nostalgia. In days gone by, the county press has been bringing the news to islanders since 1884, and we've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in September 1900, a realistic assault on and defence of Steephill Castle raised £7 for the Ventnor Volunteer Fire Brigade. The event included local service organisations and music from the band of the Ventnor Rifles, with the Shanklin Pierrot Troupe and Victoria Minstrels performing at intervals. Queen Victoria sent a large wreath to an Osborne family after their eldest daughter, Miss Thompson of New Barn, died from a sudden illness while her parents were holidaying at Balmoral. The island was preparing for a general election, with uncertainty over whether the Liberals should stand for the island seat.
100 years ago, in September 1925, an archaeological excavation on a mound by St Catherine's Oratory uncovered a mystery ring of stone. Gerald Dunning of Ventnor dug into the mound expecting to find human remains, but instead found a thigh bone, a clay pipe stem, and a 2'6" ring of sandstone blocks. Music lovers flocked to Parkhurst to hear a farewell concert by the band of the 2nd Battalion Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders before their departure for New Zealand. Princess Beatrice presented awards to island members of the British Red Cross for their charity work in a ceremony at Osborne House.
75 years ago, in September 1950, island schools reopened on a part-time basis following the outbreak of infantile paralysis earlier in the summer, which had affected many children. A fierce southwesterly gale caused extensive damage in orchards, stripping apples and pears and blowing down runner beans and tall crops. Heavy seas were also a problem, though no serious shipping casualties or shore damage were reported.
50 years ago, in September 1975, the weekly rent of a furnished room on the island was raised to £11.35 by the Southern Rent Tribunal, after landlords had unsuccessfully pressed for an increase to £13. A Camp Hill prisoner who escaped was recaptured after a prison officer and his wife spotted him in a cafe at Ryde Canoe Lake. The man from Maidstone had served 10 months of a 2.5-year sentence for burglary. The number of unemployed on the island reached 1,778, more than 700 above the same time the previous year.
And now in my view, Holmesy, who is one man against the world, has a headline of trying to hold on. I try not to get cross about the world's injustices. I certainly don't see the point of the Isle of Wight Council debating the situation in Gaza. Presidents Putin, Zelensky and Trump are unlikely to be swayed by our posturing council, are they? I try to content myself with getting cross about the smaller things, such as why school-age children need the loo during lessons. In my day, kids effortlessly hung on until break time. I've heard the school is trying to deal with bullying. Why aren't parents outraged about that, or our shameful exam results? As long as I see someone digging, I'm usually tolerant of road closures, but everyone knows they love closing the roads when the men and shovels are nowhere to be seen. Last Saturday I was stuck on the M3 for over an hour. As I'm no longer in my teens, for 60 minutes plus I sat there wondering how long my bladder could hold out. Clearly a major accident must have occurred. Why else would they close the motorway in both directions? While wishing I'd carried a book, I began to see desperate drivers reversing along the hard shoulder. Others turned their cars around and some got out and walked. Doing such things is incredibly stupid. Aside from the risk of death, you could hinder emergency vehicles from getting to the scene of the incident. The M3 is a smart motorway with numerous cameras, so it's likely those drivers will receive a summons in due course. That said, if I'd been on my way to a wedding or a funeral, I might have been tempted to do something daft. My car was stuck near a slip road, so after an hour I wriggled free. Other than thinking of the poor souls involved in the presumed accident, I really felt for the tens of thousands of people who, like me, had somewhere else to be. I wondered how many were stressing about missing the flight. Most Southerners use the M3 to get to Heathrow or Gatwick. I always leave extra time, but not an additional 3 hours. Who does that? Thanks to unreliable ferries and weather, many islanders usually travel to the airport the night before, but there are limits.
Having freed myself, I had a choice of routes. I opted to go east to find every road choked with stationary traffic. Another hour passed with very little forward progress. At the time, I had no idea the powers that be had also closed the A3 southbound from the M25 junction. The jams were so horrendous. I thought of the film Falling Down, in which Michael Douglas gets stuck in a monstrous jam, triggering a murderous rampage. Any driver in my position would surely sympathise. I enjoyed the film as a kind of guilty fantasy, but thankfully I remain unarmed for now. Having salvaged the day as best I could, later I tried to find out what major catastrophe had forced the closure of a major British artery, causing misery for thousands. It turned out to be a medical emergency. To be clear, I absolutely respect our amazing emergency services and wish the sick patient well. But is it really necessary to completely close a motorway for that reason? Does the person making such a momentous decision balance the needs of the tens of thousands affected against the needs of one sick person? I really doubt it. I'm left with the sneaking suspicion that the anonymous person in charge got carried away and ordered an extended peak hour motorway closure simply because they could. I spotted another road closure on the island this week. That one was caused by a burnt waffle in a household toaster. Naturally, 3 fire service vehicles responded. An overreaction?
And now moving on to public information. And Phil Jordan, leader of the Isle of Wight Council, writes, "Can I take a few moments to bust some myths? Can I take a few moments of your time to explain what is actually happening with devolution? There are misconceptions and misunderstandings that residents write to me about which continue to confound people. Take the Mayor, for example. The Mayor will not be running the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight is not merging with Hampshire or being taken over by Hampshire or any other council. The Mayor will not be making decisions without consent of the board, and on key decisions will need a 2/3 authority anyway. The mayors cannot raise taxes except for a modest precept amount. Most mayoral authorities have decided not to introduce a mayoral precept, and there have been no discussions amongst Solent leaders about such a move. The Isle of Wight Council will continue to deliver the services it currently delivers and receives its own funding as it currently does. Planning control and management remains in the Isle of Wight Council, as does the Island Plan. The Solent region will receive around £1.4 billion over 30 years to invest in strategic initiatives across the Solent area, including the island. Spending will be agreed by the board, and at which the leader of the Isle of Wight Council will sit and have an equal vote. The spend is not related to per capita amounts. The investments will be made to achieve regeneration and economic improvements which the island will have its fair share and benefit from. The funding from government over 30 years is the starting point on funding, not the end.
Other devolved areas have demonstrated that millions of pounds follow the funding from private investment and from specific government funds. And in addition, many powers that government hold will be transferred to the local area making decisions and spending much closer to home and made by those who know the region best, not those in Westminster. I know this gets confusing and many just do not understand that devolution is not about merger. It's about a stronger voice, more funding and strategic investment, and a guaranteed role in shaping the future of the island and the Solent region. It is a strategic partnership, working together, not competing, joining up infrastructure and strategic shared aspirations to start the work on Project Island as part of a regional investment and funding opportunity. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we cannot miss.
And now in What's On, Sight for White once again this year is hosting the Short Story Writing Competition 2025. And the subject this year is superhero. So applications are sought from budding authors to write about a superhero for a chance to have your story recorded by a celebrity and published. And there are other great prizes to be won. Various sections of adults, 12 to 17s, under 8s and under 18s. The entry forms are available from Waterstones, from Sight for White, Dress for Less. You can email admin@iwsb.org.uk or sightforwhite.org.uk. And the closing date for your superhero story is the 31st of October this year, and the award ceremony will take place on Friday the 12th of December at the Riverside Centre in Newport, and it starts at 7 p.m. And you might well see a familiar face, otherwise known as me, who will be hosting and comparing the evening.
The Isle of Wight Indoor Bowls Club are having an open day on Saturday the 20th of September between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. New members and visitors are welcome. Learn to bowl for free. Just bring flat-soled shoes or trainers, etc. There's a bar and a restaurant. Find us on the outskirts of Ryde behind McDonald's.
And the Buddle Smugglers Inn are hosting a real ale festival from Friday the 19th to Sunday the 21st of September. There are local, regional and national ales, great food and live music, and that's at the Buddle Smugglers Inn on St Catherine's Road in Knighton. And this is a free event.
And the Isle of Wight Steampunk Festival is taking place on Saturday the 27th of September, and tickets are available from Isle of Wight steampunkfestival.co.uk, £25 in advance and £30 at the door. Dress to impress or come as you are. That's on Friday the 26th of September.
And now we're moving on to letters, and this is a headline written "Fear Not Parents" and comes from Edmund Matijacek, and there's a proprietor of Priory School in Whippingham. Reading Imogen Chew's heartfelt plea about education on the island, she should know that it is not the fault of the island children or families. Here at Priory School of Our Lady of Walsingham, we have achieved for 7 years a 100% pass rate in GCSEs taken at 16 years of age. And even more, our pupils have gained 92% of their grades at 9 to 4, the old A star to C, this year, following 97% last year. We are an island school, staffed and attended and supported entirely by the island. Our pupils have graduated and come back as lawyers, engineers, farmers and public servants. It can be done and is being done on the island. Fear not.
And this is a star letter from Anne Springman, Shanklin Chine trustee in Bembridge. Lack of gully clearance causes floods. Dear editor, island roads bear a very heavy responsibility under their Private Finance Initiative, or PFI. After one inspection, I asked Ireland Roads how often they cleared the gullies under their PFI. Reply, once a year. When I ran Shanklin Chine, the Highways Department did them every 6 weeks to 2 months. The only trouble was outside the Chine Inn. Highways found the drain difficult, but it was always done. Channels were always kept clear. As far as Shanklin Chine is concerned, the PFI has been a disaster. I really don't know why it was ever introduced.
Strike could damage economy, writes Nick Winford of Ryde. Herewith a copy of my letter to the RMT Union. I write with reference to your threat of strike action in response to the planned redundancies by Whitelink. In the first instance, I fully support the rights of workers, equal pay and fair working practices, and fully recognise the dedication and commitment of all the staff at Whitelink who work tireless to maintain a successful operation in all weathers and conditions. However, do please consider the impact any strike action could have on an already beleaguered Isle of Wight economy. It would certainly devastate businesses, such as mine, that rely daily on mainland supplier and transport links. It would lead to likely job losses amongst businesses that could not survive any prolonged action. It would also bring untold distress to those with medical appointments and other family emergencies. It would affect the education of many students who travel to academic establishments on the mainland on a daily basis. Unlike transport disruption on the mainland, we have no other option but to use a ferry. Most people see the Isle of Wight as a tourist destination, but we are far more than that. We are a vibrant economy that relies daily on the ferry links to survive. And while supporting your members, I would also ask that you show consideration in our unique circumstances and balance any action against the potential for damaging an entire economy during any planned strike action.
Losing sympathy fast from Jean Robinson in Ryde. Dear Editor, it pains me to admit that I am rapidly losing sympathy for refugees. A sizable group of young foreign men arrived at the number 9 bus stop on Newport Bus Station on Tuesday late afternoon, September the 15th. The bus was late and there was already a queue of people waiting patiently. When the bus arrived, the young men, all dressed alike in hoodies, moved up to the front door of the bus. They were so intent on boarding the bus first that they did not leave much space for passengers to get off. The young men then began boarding the bus, ignoring the queue of people who had been waiting long before they had arrived at the bus stop. People were afraid to take their rightful place in the queue. I told the gentleman next to me that he was first in the queue, so he should get on the bus. He answered that he did not want to get punched and that they go upstairs anyway. A plucky old lady approached the door of the bus and tried to board, but she was pushed out of the way, whereupon she promptly rammed her shopping trolley into the bully and got on the bus. These young men need to be escorted by whoever is taking responsibility for them. Their behaviour is out of place on an island of polite, gentle people. Whoever is caring for these young men should begin by teaching them about island culture, manners, respect for each other, and caring for old women. They were displaying all the aggressive behaviours of the migrant boat people we see on our TV screens. Our island is a far cry from where they have come from, and the sooner they learn to adapt, the happier we will all be.
Smoke and mirrors over immigration. Dear Editor, when is Keir Starmer and Labour going to stop trying to fool us? Do they hold the British people in such contempt that they think they are all gullible idiots? The government's one in, one out deal with France is nothing of the sort. It's one in, one out, and one in again, albeit an immigrant applying through official channels. In terms of the number of immigrants coming into Britain, there's no change. This whole farcical nonsense is simply a political smoke and mirrors exercise, and that comes from A. Saunders of Northwood.
Omni Shambles from Chris Sprackling of Brystone. On Thursday, September the 11th, with friends travelling home from Romsey, we got stuck in a White Link Omni Shambles at Lymington Ferry Terminal. We were booked on the 6 o'clock ferry. On approaching the terminal, traffic came to a standstill. One of my passengers walked to the terminal to assess the problem. He found out car park was full owing to cars being redirected from Portsmouth due to technical problems at their terminal there. Entering the terminal, we were placed in lane 6, which we discovered was the naughty step for being late, due to the car park being full. We then sat and watched the 7 and 8 o'clock last scheduled ferry sail, whilst diverted traffic was loaded. As it turned out, there was a lorry load of sheep also stranded. Possibly due to animal welfare issues, a ghost ship was put on and we eventually sailed at 9 o'clock, avoiding a night in Lymington. This was a disgraceful way to treat islanders trying to get home on such an expensive service.
And that brings us to the end of this week's Talking News, and so it's goodbye from me, Morris.
And it's goodbye from me, Madeline. The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the Scaffolding News follows that.
A mouse took a stroll through the deep dark wood. A fox saw the mouse, and the mouse looked good. Where are you going to, little brown mouse? Come and have lunch in my underground house.
Julia Donaldson's classic children's tale about the Gruffalo is just one of 6-year-old Maya's favourite stories, and the bedtime readings with her mum Sian, one of her favourite times.
I love this book.
So what is a Gruffalo?
He has prickles on his back.
He does have prickles on his back.
That's on the page.
And just tell me a bit more about the stories you like.
I like the Girls Don't Fart one.
What's that? Girls don't bark?
Girls don't fart.
Oh.
There is actually a book out there that is published, Peter, that is called that. Exactly what you think you've heard.
Well, extraordinary.
Peppa's Party House.
Room on the Broom?
No.
Is that one not your favourite anymore?
Nope.
What's wrong with Room on the Broom, Maya?
That is not good anymore.
Oh, it's not good anymore.
It's not good. That's a Halloween.
Oh, it's only good for Halloween, Peter.
Well, if the Royal Society for Blind Children gets its way, Sian could in future be reading the Gruffalo, some of Maya's list of favourites, and other stories to many visually impaired youngsters. The Society is concerned about what it calls a chronic lack of audio books available to visually impaired children, and it's launching a campaign it calls Bedtime Donations, which would build up a free library of audiobooks via an app. It'll feature recordings of parents reading to their own children and a handful of celebrity personalities volunteering to record classic children's stories.
I'm Alison Steadman. I'm recording Sleeping Beauty. What are you doing? Asked the princess. I'm spinning, my dear, the old woman replied. Oh, that looks fun. Let me try, the princess said. She took the spindle in her hand and almost immediately pricked her finger. She fell to the floor, unconscious.
Hello, I'm John Richardson. I am reading The Tale of Mr. Jeremy Fisher by Beatrix Potter. Mr. Jeremy shoved the boat out again a little way and dropped in the bait. There was a bite almost directly. The float gave a tremendous bobbit. A minnow! A minnow! I have him by the nose!
John Richardson, and before that, Alison Steadman. Well, Sian Hughes has been telling me why she thinks this campaign is so important and demonstrating how it'll work.
So if I open my phone and go to apps, and then I select the Bedtime Donations app. Once the app is loaded, you come to an initial page where you've got two choices. You can listen to a story or you can donate a story. So for this example, I'm going to donate a story. So if I click donate a story, and then it opens a page now which is full of all the different genres of different books that you can read, from classics, poems, adventure, princesses, and many, many more. So for this example, I'm going to click adventure. So there's one here called All the Stars in the Night Sky. It then brings me up an instructions page with the book in the background. So on the instructions page, it's telling me that if I press the record button at the bottom, it will record me, and if at any point I want to pause, I can just press it again and pause. I can go and make myself a cup of tea, go and sort the kids' bath time, and then I can return to that recording again later and finish it off. Once I've recorded that story, I can then press to publish it. This story will then go off to the AI creators at RSBC, and they will clear any of the background noise out of my recording, and then it will be published into the app.
And how difficult is it for you to read a story to Maya every night?
Every night it's quite difficult. I've got 3 children to juggle between, but we do try and make time to read bedtime stories every night that I am here. But I work long hours as a nurse, so 2 long day shifts a week I work. So there's 2 nights of every week where I can't be at home reading bedtime stories because I don't get in until way past Maya's bedtime.
What would you say is the significance of the bedtime story, and in a way the significance of it being you that reads it even if you're not there?
Yeah, I think it's really important, that parents can read with their children, have those close connections, and that we've got a good routine going, because children with visual impairments tend to respond better to routine because obviously they know what's coming next then, and it winds them down, relaxes them, ready for bedtime.
Maya, would you like to have your mum reading you a story even if she couldn't get home from working in the hospital?
Yes, I do. I love bedtime stories.
So are you looking forward to this system that there's going to be where your mum can read to you even if she's not there?
Yes. So tomorrow night...
Well, tonight we're going to try it, aren't we?
Yeah. Or you can just try to read me a book from downstairs.
Well, yes, I could read you a book from downstairs.
Sian and Maya. Well, I'm joined now by Julie Davis, CEO of the Royal Society for Blind Children. Julie, before we get on to the scheme itself, just explain a little bit about the Society and where it fits into the provision of services for blind children.
The Society works with children and families from birth to age 25 years. And that might be at the point of diagnosis, it might be a point of transition, and you are perhaps introduced to this whole world of acronyms and change, and you're unsure of what to do next. So we supply support around emotional well-being, we supply activities, residential trips. We have a whole programme of support that parents and children and young people feed back to us that are priorities for them to allow them to be as included in society as possible.
You say there's a shortage of books for blind children, and I'd be the last person to say we didn't need as many books as possible. But to be fair, there are other services around. There is the RNIB's Talking Book Library, which reckons it's got over 7,000 books in their children's collection. There's Calibre, which is another service which is free to children. What will you be offering that they aren't?
So the thing that was magical about this, really, Peter, was the fact that for very young children, they would have a familiar voice. And this would be a parent or an older sibling or a grandparent, somebody that could connect with them and they could recognise. So this was about a level playing field, but also about increasing choice and making it personalised. My daughter is blind, and I can remember as a child and as she was growing up, she would select, she said, I'm not that keen on that person that's telling that story. It's not the story, it's the voice. So I think this is really critical in the Bedtime Donations app, is that personalisation.
Do you think there are barriers to there not being enough children's audiobooks in particular?
I think there are always barriers where you've not got full access and full choice. And I understand the economics. It's much more expensive to produce audiobooks, and that you might not automatically have the full range and full choice of what you might be able to buy in print. And I accept that to a degree, but we've got to be as inclusive as we can, and we've got to find solutions. And for Royal Society for Blind Children, we thought this was a really good solution to quite a comprehensive issue.
Now, we've heard Sian describing very clearly how the recording process works. The success of the scheme surely is going to rely on parents having the time, the energy, the commitment, to provide readings of books. Isn't that expecting quite a lot of them? It might be the sort of idea which people start with enormous enthusiasm, but then find it quite hard to sustain.
I hope they won't, because they're still going to be reading stories to their children. So I would hope that they would just press record as they're doing it and feel it's a natural part of their day. I mean, in the first 2 hours, we have 500 downloads and 700 recordings of new stories.
Really?
That's now increased to 2,500 downloads. And we've had 1,300 people volunteering and recording a book. If anything, our biggest issue, Peter, is we haven't got enough stories. We're desperate for more stories to be made available so that we can record them and that, we're not infringing on any copyright. Or we're looking for original works that can be brought forward. But I think parents and families and extended family will always find the time for something that is so precious.
So how big do you think the potential of this idea is?
Well, as a free service, we would hope this would run into thousands, if not more. It could go into different languages. We've already had different accents coming through, which is really good for further inclusion with our children. So they're recognising the different accents that we have across England and Wales. But for us, the greater vision and that greater goal is the largest free bedtime books provision for children and young people. We would just love this to, go beyond our wildest dream.
Well, we shall see. Just very quickly, how can people take part in that case? What do they have to do?
If you go into Google Play or your app store and look up for Bedtime Donations, it should be near the top. Download the app and then follow the instructions for listening mode or donate mode.
Julie Davis, CEO of the Royal Society for Blind Children, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, thank you.
And there's another potentially positive piece of help being offered that we wanted to cover today. All too often on this programme, we hear from people who feel that they haven't been properly supported at the time of their diagnosis of their eye condition. The clinical treatment might be fine, but knowing what to do next, how to cope emotionally, maybe even the issue of what financial help they're entitled to, can seem like a mountain to climb with no one to tell you how to climb it. But one group of London hospitals trying to do something about this are part of the Imperial College NHS Trust, which oversees Charing Cross, Queen Charlotte and Chelsea, Hammersmith, St Mary's and Western Eye Hospital. Charlie Evans is assistant psychologist at St Mary's Hospital, who's involved in putting together the case for incorporating better psychological help into the clinical programme that people receive. Charlie, that's the outline. Tell me more about what you've got in mind.
What we've recognised in current provision is that there are no dedicated psychological care pathways for ophthalmology conditions within the NHS. And whilst that's not to say people can't access other services, such as talking therapies, I think we recognise that there's dynamic need specifically within sight loss and visual impairment that might not be being met by these services. And also that these are quite specific. There's a lot of specific emotional considerations and considerations around adaptation that we believe in talks with clinicians and third-party charities such as RNIB might not be currently being met within NHS provisions. So we're looking to maybe do something about that.
Is it maybe ophthalmologists who you're partly aiming this at, who feel that, you know, their job is to look at the eye, but don't necessarily feel it's part of their job to see what happens behind that?
Certainly. And in discussions that we've had with ophthalmologists already, they have highlighted that whilst they're incredibly proficient at what they do and dealing with the physical side of people's health, they feel they may not have the knowledge and skills sufficient to deal with some of the emotional ramifications that certainly diagnosis and adaptation to eye conditions can have.
But that's the point, that you want people listening to this programme to get in touch and tell you what happened to them.
Yeah, ideally we'd love to hear both the strengths of current provision, but also any shortfalls or limitations or potentially service provisions that people would have wished they had or had been able to access around the time of diagnosis or later dynamically along the sort of sight loss and visual impairment care pathways. Really, we don't want to reinvent the wheel in terms of services that are already being provided. But we also recognise that anything new that we do offer should actually fit the needs of patients and the actual gaps in provision, which is why we're so keen to hear from people and to integrate that into our service provision case.
Right, well, we will tell people how to do that at the end of this. But of course, giving extra support to people at this time is the whole point of ECLOs. They're eye care liaison officers. And that's why the RNIB has been campaigning so hard to have an ECLO in every hospital and clinic where eye care is offered. So we're joined by Diva Shah, who is an ECLO at Western Eye Hospital. That's part of the trust, and she is also part of the RNIB's ECLO scheme. Diva, does this mean that having one ECLO in a hospital isn't enough?
No, definitely not. We are trying across England to get more ECLOs, but with expanding health needs, large populations, we do recognise that a ECLO is not going to be enough. And particularly for the project that we're looking at, because whilst ECLOs do provide that emotional and practical support at the point of diagnosis, and sometimes not necessarily at the point of diagnosis, a significant number of our patients are not getting the psychological help that they need. So it's nice to have an ECLO, but we don't work in isolation. We work best when we've got other support services in place alongside.
So from your experience, what would you say are the areas which are being neglected at the moment, you know, when it comes to visually impaired people's psychological care?
Certainly long-term counselling services, the type that Charlie is working on in our hospital, but even including things like getting out and about. We do know that for patients to maximise their independence and quality of life, there is elements where they might need a sensory impairment team to get involved. And across London, I know we don't have enough provision for that. So that's another big campaign. And it's about trying to tackle this from as many different sides as we can to maximise that quality of life and independence. The other thing that we do recognise with our patients is that, you know, they're almost 10 times more likely to have a fall. And that question often isn't asked to patients with a vision impairment, whether certified or not, is have you had a fall? So it's then putting the support services, I guess, in place to support those patients, even in their own home and when they're out and about.
How short are we of ECLOs? I mean, you are working. Are there still quite a lot of hospitals and departments that don't have them?
Yes, there are quite a lot. I couldn't give you an exact number, but when the ECLO role started 30 years ago, you know, we were talking about 1 or 2 ECLOs, and now we're talking about 162 across the UK, which is quite significant. It's also worth adding that the Royal College of Ophthalmologists have also, in their new training scheme for junior doctors, have added that they should be shadowing an ECLO at least once or twice. And you see the benefits of that, because then they go on to other hospitals where they don't have an ECLO, and the first thing they ask ask is, where is the ECLO? So it's quite a significant shift in the environment we're working with from 30 years ago to now, which is great. It is phenomenal, but yes, there's still a long way to go.
So, Charlie, just to come back to you finally, you want to hear from patients, as we've said. How easy are you making it for people to get in touch with you if you want visually impaired people to do this?
Well, hopefully we've made it as easy as possible. So we currently have an email address set up that people can write into, and we also have a voicemail service that people can phone into and leave a few of their details, and then we can contact them at a later date for a bit more of an in-depth discussion. So the email address that we've set up is imperial.intouch@nhs.net, and our phone line is 020 3311 3322.
Most important for those people who don't want to go online. Charlie Evans, Diva Shah, thank you both very much. And that telephone number again, 020 3311 3322. That's it for today. But as always, we want to hear from you. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, or you can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338 with your comments, experiences, questions. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 19th of September.
In the Newport area, 128 Malthouse Court, 121 St James's Street, O2 Shop in Holyrood Street, and 7 St Thomas's Square.
In the Ryde area, St Mary's Catholic Church, 55 High Street, ex-Barclays Bank, 7 High Street, Arcadia, 10 to 12 Esplanade, Ryde Opticians, Union Street, 7 South Street, 9 South Street, the Heron, Union Street, the Sloop, Wootton, 5 High Street, Bembridge, and in the Ryde area, Skips at 26 Quarry Road, Nelson Place, 6 Nicholas Close, Brading.
In the Cowes area, 93 and 94 High Street, the Portland Inn in Worsley Road, Gurnard, and 35 Cross Street.
And in the Sandown area, the Old Comical, St John's Road.
Yarmouth area, Bank House.
Shanklin area, Nationwide, Regent Street. Shanklin Conservative Club, 6 Palmerston Road.
And finally, in the Ventnor area, the Old Town Hall Court in Albert Street, and also 17 Church Street.